Tonight on Late Night Inks, we'll be making lines like this, like this, like this, and like this. And probably a bunch more. But before we get started on that, I want to give you guys a little sneak peek of the next Hammerella trading card we're waiting to release. This is one of the members of a group called the Velvet Thorns. And by the time you're watching this, I'm hoping to have released this already, because this is going to 100 backers. This is a backer bonus card. But you're not just here for that. You're here for Late Night Inks.
If I said any chance we'll take it, when I said the rules we're breaking, we're gonna make our dreams come true, doing it our way.
Hey homies, what's up? Ryan Wynn here with another episode of Late Night Inks, and tonight we have another winner that we are inking. And by winner, I don't just mean superhero Bobby Drake, Iceman. I mean this was recommended to somebody who signed up on my email list for the Hammerella email campaign. And I don't know who it was, and I won't know until after this, because I'm not trying to pick any favorites, I'm just drawing blindly, and this is the Iceman, specifically from the 1984 series, written by, and this is all by memory, I know it was J.M. DeMatteis, and I believe it was Cobblepot on pencils, and I want to say Rubenstein on inks. And I'm going to look this all up later and see how right I am, or how wrong, but I will let you know either way someday. So, what we are doing here is an ink-along, and what is an ink-along? Well, this image is available down below in the description, and you can download it, print it up, and ink it, or throw it into whatever digital platform or app you want to ink on, and throw some digital inks on it. Tonight we will be using the trusty Raphael 8404 size 2. We call her Stinger, because she's so sharp. So, I have already warmed up. I hope you have as well. I'm dipping the brush in some water first, and then into the inkwell about halfway to 2/3. We don't want to go too far past the arch of the brush there. We don't want it ink clogging up inside the ferrule, because then that distorts the shape of the brush, and nobody wants that. So we are nice and loaded up on ink with this bad girl, and we're going to start with the contour lines, but I'm going to go in on this neckline first. Make sure we're lined up in frame. So I have been really impressed, and I gotta say slightly overwhelmed by the amount of ink-along participants. It's super awesome, and I've missed some of you guys, and I don't mean like, oh, I miss you guys. I mean, I have had so many of you sending them that I'm forgetting. So I'm having to make like a spreadsheet or something, and maybe even start turning it into a thing where you email them to an email address or something. Because I didn't know there'd be this many people, but I do like that you guys are throwing your own ats and social medias on there, so that I don't have to screw that up, and also, that saves me so much time trying to edit stuff, which already, even just simple edits they take a long time for this old man, so. Alright, now we're going to swing it around this way, and bring this neck muscle down, and then create that trapezius, is that the trapezius? I forget all the muscle names. I used to think it was so important to know all that stuff, and I'd spend all this time like drawing them and knowing the names, and we had my wife was studying to maybe be a nurse at the time. This is 20 years ago. So she had medical books, and I was trying to be all anatomically correct about everything and terminology and this or that, and now I'm like, I don't know what things are called. But I know how everything's shaped and fits together. I just forget what things are called. So it'd be pretty funny in a medical emergency. I'd be like, hey, that thing that ties into the other thing by this connective tissue here in this tendon, but What are you talking about? That's the Angs. All right, so here we go. I didn't mention it on the other side, but we have a opportunity for a chisel line, and that's I throw the brush back a little like this, lay it down, and go bam, and you get this chisel line shape. You'll see that a lot in image style artwork, famous from guys like Scott Williams over Jim Lee, stuff like that. Will Spertasio, all those guys. And the Wildstorm inkers and Top Cow inkers alike are all really good at that kind of stuff. Alright, we are moving pretty quick because Iceman's pretty simple. And you're like, yeah man, what's up? Why are we doing such a simple character? Well, this is where you have to show how smooth and confident your lines can be. And obviously, that doesn't mean if your lines aren't that smooth and confident, don't show me your ink alongs, because this isn't about how good it is. This is just about having fun with the inks and getting brave enough to actually ink a piece, because it's a lot more intimidating than people think. But hopefully I've done a lot of the thought for you in providing the pencils and stuff. Excuse me, swig of water for me, swig of water for the brush. So there are also times as a comic book artist where you will be called upon to draw things you're not expected to draw. Maybe you wanted to draw a knight in scaled armor and all kinds of stuff, and the guy comes at you and he's like, no man, this guy's made of ice block. And you gotta do just as good a job on ice block, dude, as this knight that you want to draw. I actually happen to want to draw this character, so that's fine with me. But I'm just presuming that, you know, some artists you don't want to. This is fairly simple. You want more of a challenge, but the challenge is your lines now have to almost speak for themselves. Don't have to almost. They have to speak for themselves. So how do we get those confident lines? Well, on stuff like this, you can see I line up my shot first, and then I throw the line. Do the same thing over here. I do it super quickly. You almost don't even notice. But you see, I when I come over here, you know, bring these pieces together, that's where I want the line to end, and then I doopity boop, and same thing there. So it's almost giving you an invisible track to take. Like a race car driver has to find their line. I don't know if that makes sense, my hand passing in front of the screen, but they have to find their line on the track. That's the smoothest, cleanest course for them to take. And I always think of my brush inks like that, especially when you're doing like thin to thick to thin lines. Here we're going to do a chisel, and we're going to bring it over here and do another chisel. Chisel, chisel. Let me build this one up because I'm not sure how heavy I want it to be. And we'll chisel back up, and we'll do a chisel this direction. But then I'm gonna go this way and fill in that nostril. So see here, just like a plane landing and taking off, you go swoop. And I also think about it like a race car going by. Shoop. It's almost like the Doppler effect of line. Not lying, line. Alright, so we have our nose. Let's see, let's go in, chisel lines again. And just a thick line, and then here we're going to go heavy chisel for the underside of his lips. Now you want to practice all these different lines on your warm-up sheets and your scratch papers, and you want to think about it just like an athlete. I like to think about it like a basketball player. You have all these shots, these shot possibilities, three-pointer, layup, slam dunk, all these different techniques, and you want to run those drills. You want to practice all those things when you're not in the game. and not in a scrimmage setting. You want to just go and basically shoot hoops, but in an organized method that's for teaching muscle memory. So that's why I say things like, oh, lining up my shot. Oh man, look, it went over right there, but that's what the whiteout's for. Sometimes you're going to do that. Of course, you don't want to, but you don't want it to affect your positivity moving forward. Just go, acknowledged, bummer, whatever, move on. Don't whine about stuff. All right, we also got to keep track of any wet points. See a wet point there, wet point there. Let's clean up some of these lines. All right, I'm gonna do some of the rendering here on the nose because the brush has a nice sharp point on it right now, and it's not too heavy with ink, so we can do this rendering on the underside and the bridge of the nose. And we'll come back and do that drop shadow, that cast shadow, and this one. We'll do those afterwards. And we're gonna move into the eyes now because the brush is being very responsive to more thin and delicate lines, and that's what I want to produce on eyes. I want them to be very clean, very precise. I'm gonna go mimic that over here, but in the reverse. And this line is sort of connecting the way the eye sits in the eye socket to where the eyelid goes over the eyeball. And that's all stuff you want to know. I don't do it realistically, but I use realism to inform how I do it. It's one of the things I learned early on in my inking career from Danny, was him showing and explaining to me what Kirby was doing, like that these bloops weren't just bloops. He was basing them on, like, there's this muscle shape here. He just does it in these big bloopy patterns. All right, now I do call this an ink along, but do not feel like you need to ink as quickly as I do. You can ink it in your own time, after the video, during the video, whatever you feel like. But I ink pretty fast. I've been doing this professionally for almost 20 years. So we got a lot of ink on the brush now. I'm going solid black on the eyes. I mean, obviously there's the reflection and the highlight of the reflection across the pupil. We're going to keep those, but the rest is going to be solid black because that's sort of how it looked on the covers and the the covers to the 1984 series. He had the white eyes on some of the interior panels and things like that. It was a weird series, in a really good way. Like, JM is probably one of my most influential writers after, or alongside, I should say, like Claremont and Peter David. I do enjoy Larry David, though. So one of the things I enjoyed was the graphic quality of Marvel Comics in the 80s, and they had this, I don't know who's doing the covers. I don't think it was the same guy on the interiors. I think the covers might have been like Jackson Juice or something like that. Geis. I called him Juice my entire life as a kid, but I think it's Geis. Butch Geis, basically. He was Jackson at the time. Because I don't do the research before this. I try to let everything flow from my stupid brain. All right, you got to watch those wet points there and there now. But anyways, I like the graphic quality of the heavy eyebrows and the black eyes and the smiley face. And this is sort of the hero smile. I like that they give to certain heroes sometimes, like Superman does it, where it's got a stern look, but he's smiling, like, I'm strong, but you're safe with me, kind of thing. But I think of Bobby Drake as doing it sort of tongue-in-cheek. Like, because he's pretty goofy, or I don't know, originally. I don't know what's going on with him now, but he was pretty goofy, and that's why he worked well with Spider-Man. He wasn't supposed to be quite as quippy as Spider-Man, but he had a similar sense of humor. So it makes sense that the two of them kind of had fun hanging out together. All right, excuse me. Let me load the brush up with some ink. I think we are dry everywhere, and it is safe to go in and do some of these bigger lines. Like we're going to do his collarbones here. So we're going to line up the shot, and I like to do these in just kind of like 2 or 3 wispy lines. Kind of like so. When I was inking superhero comics, I liked inking the guys that were into heavy detail and super anatomically correct, like getting all these striations, I don't know, I forget the term, but all the tendons and muscles, and they got all that stuff right. But in my own work, I like it to kind of almost lean into an animated feel, like slightly animated, slightly comic booky. But ultimately, I'm always just kind of ripping off the classic Marvel style. All right, this is not going to be black shadows, but I am doing these little outliney shapes where we're going to put some rendering there, and that's going to kind of represent the shadowy part on those muscles. But since he's ice, it's not going to be black. All right, same thing here. This is a little bit of shadow from his musculature, and then also cast shadow from his big square chin. He kind of looks like David Barron, the colorist, to me, too. Anyways. Let's see. I'm going to do one little shadow there on that part. Now I don't know if I like that, but we'll see. We'll come back and white it out if we don't. So we got those, and we're closing in on all the face and shadows and stuff I want to do. I'm going to outline these bad boys here. Sometimes the brush has the right tip and ink load in it, and you want to go around and make the most of it being in that certain condition. And I mean condition in a good way, because I can't think of another term. But. So right now, it's perfect for all these lines that I'm doing. So don't force yourself to always necessarily work in a certain pattern. Sometimes that's beneficial. Like when I first load up the brush and it's full of water and ink, I like to do those big, heavy, bold contour lines and, figure out all my shapes, the big parts. And then as the brush kind of warms up in a way, I get finer and finer, and we kind of hone in on the details and stuff like that. And then kind of finish up with all the rendering, which to me is the funnest part. But it's also the part you want to do last, because you want to make sure everything else falls into place. Alright, so what rendering are we going to start with? The brush is slightly loaded here. I think I'm going to go here. We're going to bear down and probably do like something like that. And we go heavier on that cheekbone because that's a shape that sticks out. And here we can do a little bit of these and throw a chisel there. Doesn't have to be squared off. We can do some oval shapes like that too. And you don't always have to follow exactly what I have on the ink along print up. They are merely suggestions. You can throw the lines any way you want. You can do the rendering any way you want. I've just given you a path to take. Alright, the brush is drying up a little. So I think after this bad boy, I'm gonna give her a drink. Take a little stinger to the drinking hole. I have a scratch board next to my ink well that I kind of wipe off some of the excess water. Dip the brush in, and then I'll kind of flick the brush on the inside of the jar. So you have to set up to block that splatter if you're in danger zone. All right, we in frame. Here we go. So on these ones, I'm tending to do heavy on the outside and then pulling the line work and the rendering on the inside, sort of creating a gray tone on the inside. And that would indicate to the colorist that there's a rim light around the character. So put the color and the darker tones on the inside and then make the outline on the outside solid white. And we're gonna go a little heavier on this one than the other side and hit it with more of a cast shadow as well. There we go. Same with this bad boy. Heavier oval shape. There we go. Let's connect that. Alright, I always get excited this part because it's like I see the finish line. And even though I'm having fun, I get excited about finishing pieces. It's just like built into me now. Alright, and here we're gonna do one of these gradations. And that's because the chin kind of pops out and then cuts back. And we want to have that reflection and shadow kind of going there. Alright, so this is all almost dry. As am I. Another swig of water for the Ink King. Alright, so like I said earlier, this is going to a winner and not just someone related to me, but somebody who entered their name on the email list and made a suggestion, because we sent them an email back asking them to make a suggestion. And then they suggested Iceman, and my assistant put that on a list, and I drew from that list. And they get the original art. Not my assistant, sorry. The person who recommended Iceman gets this original art. Alright, and I like adding a little bit of these lines sometimes, these very, very thin render lines, almost like shadows, gray tone around the eyes, as it helps to draw a little bit of attention to them. And they'll be next to these stark black eyes and eyebrows, so the viewer will be drawn to the eyes first. So even when you're doing portrait work and headshots, stuff like that, you want to have composition in mind. It's okay for some of these thinner lines to have a dry quality to them. Alright, let's do these bad boys here. A little drier than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. I'm getting the brush is giving me the bounce I like. There we go. Alright, now we're gonna give her another dunk in the old inkwell. We're gonna come out kind of heavy with it because now we're gonna fill in this black area. I want to do these and then move on to the shadows and renders down here, and then we'll call it quits after we do this big reflection here. Alright, so you don't have to rush. I recommend filling black shapes in very slowly, be very meticulous. You will get faster with it as you do it, and you'll get faster and more precise. If you rush yourself, you won't ever get the precision down. You'll just be worried about rushing. Okay, even when I'm filling in black, I'm going to line up my shot. Normally, if this was a comic page or something and there was going to be a lot of black areas to fill in, I would pull out the bigger brush and do all of that in one fell swoop with the bigger brush. But today we are kind of remaining in size 2 territory. She can handle this stuff. She said she wanted to come out and work today, so we are respecting that. There we go. All right. Wet ink, wet ink, wet ink, wet ink. Watch out for that. Okay, we are going to do cast shadow here. And it's going to get heavier towards the outside. And we're going to do similar here. This is a little bit of rendering / cast shadow for the underside of that lower lip. There we go. Alright, so that is wet, so I want to watch out for that, but we're going to be throwing some almost chisel lines here. Break it down here. Break it down. And we'll get heavier and heavier as we go like this. But you don't have to go full black. Gonna keep it kind of light because he is ice and he has ice transmitting through him. So speaking of which, that was a weird thing I remember from the series, is he basically, they were trying to explain his costume, I think, and they had him in a backpack that had his clothes, and I remember he like lands in some lady's backyard and he's transformed into Bobby Drake from his ice form, and he's just in his underwear. So you're like, oh, whoa, his costume is just his chones, bro? You're just gonna go, ice sledding around in your chones like that? So, yeah, I remember that. That was really weird. Okay, so we are almost done here. I am loading up the brush again. We're gonna come up here. We got this big old reflection to do off him, and you'll see I've basically formed a circle here. So this part of the head, there's this plane, which is basically the forehead. His hairline would be here, and your head kind of changes shape there, changes direction. So this is coming back, and then this is coming down. So where that ridge is, we've broken that for part of the highlight, and this is how they would do it in Marvel Comics. And then you want to do a highlight off this side, and that's why that line is broken there. I need some water, hold on. So you want to have it be a unified, not a perfect circle, but sort of a unified shape. And trust me on that. If you want to practice doing it in awkward or different shapes or something, you can. You'll see that the nice clean version works best. And the types of lines you want to do for that, I have laid in there. And you don't have to ink the circle lines themselves. We're just inking the energy lines here. We'll go thinner on the top, and I like to go thicker on the underside of these lines, even though they are not actually a dimensional piece. I just like to give a little bit of line variety and weight to everything if possible. Do the same thing here. And then we'll swing it around and do similar here. And there we have our winner Iceman dinner for a lucky somebody who will be contacted in the next day or so. All right, if you inked along, go ahead, ink up my name, and then biggity bam, add yours as well. Also, add your @ if you want me to share this in the video. Go ahead and add your @ or add it across the bottom if you want, nice and big so people can see it. It's not super high definition, but we'll scroll past your work and they'll see your name and stuff like that. And I love seeing the variations everybody's been doing. Thank you so much, and until next time, take care of yourself. Oh, wait a second. Before that, if you haven't backed Hammerella, follow that link below. Check out our perks. We got some great stuff coming out. We're doing really good right now, and I just noticed I want to do one more thing as well. So we're doing really well in the Hammerella campaign. I'm going to be hitting up all kinds of fun streams, and I have all kinds of fun ideas for us to do on this channel as well. So yeah, in the next few days, I'm going to be letting you guys know what's up with that. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and take it easy. You've read the Alterna Comics hit series, Gods and Gears. Now explore the extended universe in Hammerella. Hammerella Thundersmoke tells the story of Hammerella, a being descended from gods and witches, stranded since infancy on a planet designed to kill her. Finally getting the chance to escape, she finds herself in the midst of a galactic war. Follow the links in the description to learn more about the story, check out some more killer production art, and get yourself on our email list where you can not only win original art, but you can stay up to date on our upcoming Indiegogo campaign. It's right around the corner. You don't want to miss out.
Stupid cat.